Microsoft, buddy, what did you hear, see? What did you think?
I mean, Microsoft for the quarter absolutely crushed it. In fact, if I look at the past four earnings, they beat on EPS more than they ever had, and they matched, the March of 24 on revenue by about 1.6%. And then the market, they rewarded Microsoft by having a massive sell-off, the biggest sell-off in a long time here. So what the heck happened? I mean, it was all about the guide, and to me, right, the investors just kind of blew over, right, the second half of the year discussion and focused all on the second quarter. So, but let's just marvel at these earnings for a second, right? We talked about single digit Apple, right? Microsoft grew revenue by 16%. That's $66 billion. Increased net income by 14% to almost 31 billion. Oh my gosh, what about EPS? They increased it by 10%. So, good God, right? And the AI number, right, Dan? We always talk about the elusive AI number. I think the company said, hey, they're on track. I think this was back in September that for the year, their AI revenue would be $10 billion, right? What other company, Dan, can you think about that has, aside from NVIDIA, that said it has an AI number of $10 billion for the year?
Yeah, nobody's saying it yet. Amazon is hinted, but
Yeah.
they're the only ones that said it. And I keep telling people, Pat, you got to say it. If you know it, say it.
Yeah, and Azure. Oh my gosh, they must have had weakness in Azure because it's such a large business. No, they ripped 33%. We were marveling about Google Cloud 35%, which is freaking amazing, but Azure grew 33%. Likely, OpenAI infrastructure is in that, and I think the data point was that Azure growth included 12 points from AI services. So I guess simple math might be 33 minus 12. You get to non-AI, but there's a heck of a lot of AI in that Google number too. Oh, and gosh, we've seen enterprise SaaS in the single digits, with the exception of ServiceNow, right? It must have been single digit. No, Dynamics 365 was 18% growth, okay, which is rocking. By the way, not everybody's enterprise SaaS is down. We have seen ERP at double digits, and ServiceNow is rocking it. But this is all about the next quarter expectations. And what's so interesting to me is that even though their CFO has nailed almost every single thing that she has said, investors just didn't seem to buy into the second half. It's going to get better in the second half story, and I think what we're probably going to see from the company is over the net, maybe it's going to be at Chicago, or more proof point to why the second half is going to be so much better than the second quarter showed it to be.
Yeah, I mean, the why is the stock down? I mean, there was a conservatism about the guide. There was some conservatism about Azure guide. I think some CEOs and CFOs are smart enough to sometimes say, look, we have really, really fast growth. Let's use this moment as a bit of a reset. They've had a heck of a run up in the stock. Being able to continue to promise such growth, as it's always better to underpromise and overdeliver. You'll either take the hit when you miss, or you'll take the hit when you guide. If you're always up and to the right endlessly, you're probably on a very lucky run, but that's just not typically sustainable for long periods of time. We actually didn't talk about Meta, which had a pretty good quarter too, but Meta also got kind of punished because it seemed a little bit cautious in its guide. And again, that tends to be its way of doing things. But then it continues to beat and outperform. And by the way, Meta, what a great story for using AI. Talk about a company, Pat, you maybe asked for one that's getting getting dollars from AI. They're getting it actually by building it into their own products for advertising purposes and doing a pretty darn good job of it. When it comes to the cloud side, though, Microsoft is unique in being able to forecast a number and really communicate a number that it's getting from its investments in AI. I mean, Pat, we haven't talked about it much on this show, but it's another thing that, markets have been looking really closely at is CapEx. And so the company kind of forecasted that the CapEx spend is going to be somewhat similar going forward, which people kind of wonder, is that boding well for NVIDIA or not? But with NVIDIA's forecast suggesting that it's sold out of everything it can pretty much make for the next several quarters, it seems like they're going to do fine. But is CapEx leveling off? And one of the interesting things I spent some time on this week too is kind of understanding that CapEx number. A lot of us like to throw it around and talk about it like it's all GPUs and networking and data infrastructure. It's not. It's also real estate, it's thermals and power, it's leases and land. It's a lot of different things that are going into these CapEx numbers, but these companies are all in on building out scale, capacity, and data centers. And Pat, the word came out from, I think, all the cloud CEOs about capacity constrained on AI, meaning they all need more. So if they had more, they could sell more. That means their price and demand control is still pretty good. It means they're still probably able to get a somewhat decent premium. With Blackwell coming in, questions will be about H series, A series, what happens on their ability to price these things. And then, of course, how quickly do these various companies stand up their own? In Microsoft's case, Maya, new product, just coming to market. How is that going to fit into their cloud strategy? Do they make more money by vertically integrating? So much there, Pat. But it was a good quarter. Guide is always a bit of a gotcha. You hit it all pretty well, and again, got across the company. Not much mention on the Surface and AI PC side still. We're going to just have to keep waiting on that one. But the performance looks pretty good, so we'll see where that lands.